toss it to Council President Friedson for opening remarks, and then we'll open up for questions. Council President, to you.
So much, Jordan. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I want to begin by recognizing the anxiety being caused by the upcoming changes at the federal level. For a little over a month, the country will be preparing for the peaceful transition of power in January. I want to take this opportunity to reassure residents that the outcome of the election and the priorities of the new administration will not prevent Montgomery County's government from continuing our ongoing work and moving forward with our shared commitment towards meeting the needs of our residents. At the council, our focus will remain on legislating, approving budget requests, and doing everything we can to make sure Montgomery County remains a safe, inclusive, and welcoming community. Our county has always been a place where people from all over the world and from every walk of life choose to come to build their lives and to build towards their future. We know that that will continue, and we will ensure that it does. Our resolve is unwavering in rejecting hate in all of its forms, and we will not allow anything coming out of Washington to diminish the progress that we've made together. We'll continue to partner with state and federal partners, with our local community leaders, with faith and nonprofit leaders, to make sure that we are advocating for our community and advancing our shared priorities. Now I want to shift gears to recap some of the events I participated in over the weekend and thank the organizers for their hard work in making these community activities such a great success. On Saturday, I participated in the Montgomery County Thanksgiving Day Parade in Silver Spring. It was a great way to bring community members together to help kick off the start of the holiday season, a little bit ahead of Thanksgiving, but we want to be out of the gate first. This year, we had two local Olympians, gold medalist Thea LaFond and our other Olympian, Aaron Owusu, who served as the honorary grand marshals. They are two amazing community members, and it was great to have them help us kick things off, along with Senator Van Hollen and Congressman Jamie Raskin and a number of our county council members and the county executive. It was just an extraordinary way to celebrate our county and express our gratitude to live in a community filled with so much talent and generosity at a time when, frankly, it's needed more than ever. The council appreciates all the hard work Montgomery County government employees and all of the community volunteers put forward to help organize and run this family-friendly event to help uplift our community, which they do each and every year. Also ahead of Thanksgiving, I stopped by on Friday and volunteered with Nourishing Bethesda to assist with their pre-Thanksgiving food distribution. This is the first of many activities that I have planned to volunteer as part of the season of giving, and I join with so many members of our community who step up to support those in our community who are vulnerable, particularly during this holiday season, and as the weather is turning to become colder, and as we need to band together as a community more than ever. This weekend, yesterday, on Sunday, I also joined my friend Dan Langenkamp, WABA, the Washington Area Bicyclists Association, Trek Bicycle, and almost 900 cyclists and over 200 supporters for the third annual Ride for Your Life in memory of Sarah Langenkamp, who was tragically killed on River Road coming home from Woodacres Elementary School. It was just another inspiring example to witness how Dan is honoring his wife Sarah's memory by galvanizing such a tremendous outpouring of advocacy, demanding safer streets to save others from the preventable heartbreak that he and his family endured. His sons were there with us, a large number of friends, and just an overwhelming outpouring of community support. We rode from Bethesda down to the U.S. Capitol, and there was a major rally there where a number of speakers, including Congressman Raskin, spoke to the crowd. I also want to highlight the Maryland Black Chamber's annual meeting and awards banquet last week, which was a powerful reminder on Thursday of the strength and success of Maryland's Black business community, as the state has been ranked #1 for minority-owned business success by LendingTree, something that we take great pride in. As I said there, when we all succeed, we all succeed, as Paul Wellstone once said, and as we continue to reiterate and repeat. And lastly, Councilmember Lukey and I recently met with senior MCPS and state officials to discuss their recently announced changes to the handling of hate bias incidents. She and I have been working with MCPS for several years on how they respond to these incidents, including the reporting and communicating of those incidents to families and to stakeholders. We expect this updated identification and reporting system and clear communication to students, families, and staff as we work together to keep our community safe. I especially want to thank Councilmember Lukey for her expertise and knowledge on the subject, given her background at the state level, and really appreciate MCPS leadership and state officials for their focus on improving these efforts. Now on to this week's council business. Today, the PHP committee will be meeting to discuss two programs that will help residents create accessible homes and offer housing choices for those aging in place and young adults in the form of accessory dwelling units. The first update that we're getting is on the Design for Life program, which provides incentives to make homes more accessible. The program is administered by the Department of Permitting Services, as well as the Department of Housing and Community Affairs, which runs the HARP program, the Housing Accessibility Rehabilitation Program. The PHP committee received a briefing on this program in July when a number of issues were identified as possible barriers to greater participation, especially in the tax incentive program, including the high cost of construction, of accessibility improvements, limited information and advertising to homeowners, and difficulty in navigating the county's existing permitting processes and websites. There's essentially two programs here. The HARP program, the Home Accessibility Rehabilitation Program, is highly successful. In fact, I led an effort on the council to significantly increase funding for that program, which helps residents make necessary improvements so they can stay in their homes when they develop a accessibility challenge, when they are aging, if they have a disability, for instance. That program is going great. We generally partner with the nonprofit partners that we have in our community, including Rebuilding Together and Habitat for Humanity. We increased that funding from $300,000 to $1.5 million, and those funds have been heavily utilized, and those projects are ongoing. The Department of Permitting Services tax credit program has really been the one that is identified to have significant challenges of not being utilized to the extent that we want, and really is part of the ongoing conversation that we're having. In October, subsequent to our meeting at the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee over the summer, the county's Commission on People with Disabilities transmitted a letter containing proposals and recommendations on the program. Some of the recommendations for the county include creating a simplified application process and developing a list of certified contractors to help residents. For those interested who don't qualify for the Design for Life tax credit, suggestions were also made to include referrals to other programs for individuals needing housing modifications, such as the program that I mentioned earlier, the HARP program, and other related programs through our partners Rebuilding Together and Habitat for Humanity. We'll go through those recommendations and the suggested next steps during our meeting this afternoon. And then ADUs, accessory dwelling units, the committee will receive a status of accessory dwelling units production in the county. ADUs are smaller independent residential dwellings that share the same lot as a detached single-family home. ADUs can provide affordable housing options for some residents, including proximity and privacy for older adults or adult children seeking to live closer to their family members. The meeting this afternoon will allow staff from the Department of Permitting Services and DHCA to provide further clarification on outstanding questions the committee had during its last meeting, including clarification on the number of permits issued and geographic location of ADU production within the county, and a distinction of the various fees charged by the county during the ADU permitting and licensing process. Among these questions, another was the status of the county's roommate match program, where DHCA matches seniors and low-income families to affordable housing resources. It's known as the Montgomery County Home Sharing Program, administered by DHHS through a third-party service provider, HIP, the Housing Initiatives Partnership Program. HIP conducts background checks and credit checks and helps homeowners prepare their lease and home sharing agreements with home seekers. No rental subsidies are offered by the county as part of the program, but these services provide a significant benefit to residents to be able to utilize this program. It was launched in 2021, has matched 25 homeowners and renters to date, and we'll go into more depth on this and similar questions this afternoon. At council session tomorrow, we'll be receiving a update from council staff about the community feedback we received on the Attainable Housing Strategies Initiative as part of the portal that we set up and the listening sessions, in person and virtual, that we conducted over the course of the fall. As most of you know, this initiative was brought forth by the planning department that aims to diversify housing options in Montgomery County to help generate additional housing that are needed for families and residents hoping to build lives here. This fall, the council held 5 in-person listening sessions in different districts around the county and a virtual one to hear from residents on the recommendations that we have from the planning department. As has said repeatedly, we don't have legislation currently before us. The idea is for us to hear from residents on these series of recommendations, and there are a lot of them in what the planning department has put forward. We heard from more than 2,000 registered participants in the listening sessions and many more as part of the portal, coupled with the outreach that was conducted by planning over the last several years. We've had unprecedented outreach and have heard from many, many residents on these recommendations. To provide a snapshot of the amount of input, just to give you a sense, approximately 1,386 comments were received through the portal. The council also received written correspondence by email and our contact us page with over 400 letters received as of October 18th. The portal is still open. Comments will continue to be evaluated as they come in. The dedicated council webpage, as well as the dedicated webpage in the planning department website, will also remain up even after we receive the briefing tomorrow, and will be updated as the initiative continues and as the council determines what, if any, next steps will take place. As a reminder, no legislation before us yet at this point, and following our briefing tomorrow, we will regroup and see where things are. All zoning changes would need to be introduced at the council, and then we'll go through the formal legislative process, which has not yet begun. I want to reiterate my thanks to all of the residents who have made their voices heard over the last few months. We really appreciate those engaging in the process, and we'll keep residents updated as we move through all of the various aspects of this process and take into account the feedback that we've received from the community. We'll also tomorrow afternoon receive a briefing on the incentive zoning update from the planning board. This is a study that recommends updates to the public benefits point system, which is used to evaluate new development and determine to what extent a development project must provide corresponding public amenities. Essentially, when a project goes through the formal process, what public amenities are received as a part of that, and what points are received in order to make them come to fruition. The incentive zoning update makes recommendations to allow different neighborhoods to evolve with market trends and community needs, to no longer have a one-size-fits-all approach to this process, to make sure that the benefits that we are getting and that we are asking for are essentially aligned with what our actual interests, goals, and needs are in the community today. We don't want something that solves yesterday's problems. We want something that solves today's and tomorrow's community challenges and serves the needs of our residents today and into the future. The project doesn't rezone any parcels of land or alter existing development. Through the system to maximize mixed-use development, applicants can build to higher densities near transit and employment centers in return for providing public benefits. That isn't new. The question is, what public benefits are we asking for, and how does that public benefit process work, and to make sure that it actually is serving the needs and the desires of the community and the public policy interests that we share as a county. The last review for this process was 14 years ago in 2010. So it is certainly needed. We've updated a number of our policies since then: Thrive 2050, the Climate Action Plan, the county's racial equity laws, all of which weren't in place when the public benefits plan was last reviewed. So this is a really important opportunity for us. And frankly, this tool is an essential tool to help us not only create new housing, generate new investment, but also to provide public facilities and benefits that our residents can utilize each and every day. Last week, we had a really robust conversation to do the deep dive into the cost drivers of the Montgomery County Public Schools budget. This meeting with MCPS officials, including the superintendent and the president of the Board of Education, was part of ongoing work that we're doing with the school system ahead of the budget next year as we grapple with possible changes in funding at the federal level and the importance of balancing the county's fiscal responsibility with the growing needs of an evolving school system. The session was the first of 3 meetings on the MCPS budget, which is $3.3 billion of our $7.1 billion county budget. 65% of the MCPS budget comes from the county, 28% comes from the state, and 3% from the federal government. This is part of an initiative that Council Vice President Stewart and I have embarked on to start doing deep dives into the base budget outside of our traditional condensed budget process. And we're starting with MCPS clearly because it is the largest, most important aspect of our county budget, totaling nearly half of the county's annual operating budget. Superintendent Taylor at this meeting warned of an unsustainable budget trajectory and discussed base budgeting to prioritize mandatory costs, essential initiatives, and optional goals. Basically doing a zero-based budget review, which is something that MCPS has not previously done. And I applaud the superintendent for looking into this and starting to embark on that effort. With $112 million expected in federal funding, any cuts from the new administration, such as reduced Title I allocations, that could disproportionately impact the county's high poverty schools and really put us in a significant bind to be able to meet the needs of our community and of our school children. We're continuing to see historic growth in the school system. The MCPS budget grew by almost 50% over the last decade, the annual growth averaging around 4%. We learned that personnel costs continue to be the biggest expense, which is not anything new, but driven by hiring experienced teachers, our teachers having more tenure than they have previously had, increased staffing for our ESL and pandemic-related needs has also added to that. And so we are moving forward with that as well. Full-time employee salaries, just to give a sense, increased from $95,716 in 2015 to $121,008 in fiscal year 2025. And we've seen significant increases in insurance, pensions, and per student expenditures from $14,780 in fiscal year 2015 to $20,561 in 2025. We still have a lot of unknowns heading into 2025 and next year's budget cycle, not just at the federal level, but at the state level and beyond. But these proactive conversations will help to ensure that we can better understand and delve into next year's budget with as much information as we possibly can to make as informed decisions as we need to do. I am proud of the fact that this year, for the first time ever, we included accountability metrics in our budget resolution for MCPS. We have expanded the number of inspector general positions dedicated specifically to MCPS, and now we're having these proactive conversations collaboratively with the school system and their leadership, both at the Board of Education level and at the superintendent staff level, to be able to move forward. We're going to have 2 more additional similar briefings, one focused on contractual service spending, and the other focused on the components, timelines, and fiscal impacts of the blueprint for Maryland's future, something that has significant impacts on our local county budget as well as the state budget. With that, I think you have an update of things that we're working on. I'm happy to open it up to any questions, so I'll turn it back to you.
Great.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Council President Friedson. Reporters, if you have any questions, you can note that in the chat or raise your hand. Up first, we have Tom Fitzgerald with Fox 5. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Council President. Thanks for doing the call. Couple of news items over the weekend. As you're probably aware, Marriott Corporation announced that it's going to be laying off approximately 833 people due in January 2025. It's a bit of a three-part question here. Your reaction to this news, the economic effect on Montgomery County and it being one of the largest employers, and is there a plan or a concern here about the development that's already in place, and one of them just recently in the last 2 years, now losing jobs out of the heart of an area that you had and the council had tagged for, development here?
Well, it's obviously deeply disappointing news, not something that we ever want to hear of a major employer like Marriott letting go of employees. It is our understanding that they're making global changes to their business, and some of those employees are going to be offered other positions within the organization. So it's a little unclear at this point of exactly what the net impact is going to be on the company broadly, and specifically on the Bethesda-based headquarters and on Montgomery County specifically. We're in internal conversations at the county level and also with our state partners, Department of Commerce, to figure out next steps and where we go from here. It is concerning to hear a large employer like this making major changes, and something that we're monitoring very closely and extremely focused on. I think it calls into focus our need to grow a private sector economy. When you layer on top of this news with what we're hearing from Capitol Hill and what we're hearing from a potential new Trump administration related to reductions in the federal workforce, it reiterates the need for us to grow a private sector economy that is adding jobs, not stagnating or losing jobs, and that we're attracting new investments, new companies, and new businesses. It also makes certain that we need to have an economy that is growing at a rate that isn't reliant on public spending or on one particular type of industry or business. We need to diversify our economy to the greatest extent possible, and we need to make sure that not only within the region are we the regional powerhouse of our greater capital area economy, which historically has been the role that Montgomery County has played, but we need to double down on that and reassert ourselves in that, but also that the greater capital area, which had historically grown at rates that were higher than other regions across the country, has not been growing at the rate that we have become accustomed to. Both of those issues are significant and ones that we need to focus on, and why I am relentlessly focused on growing our private sector economy to make sure that we can keep up with our high quality of life. It's why, as council president, I led the effort to create the $20 million New Jobs Initiative, which is the largest individual economic development package in the county's history. We recently launched with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation and the executive branch, the first piece of that, the first major fund of that, which is a job creation fund for large employers that create positions that pay over $100,000 in strategic industries. They get an incentive for those. They get a bonus if they're in a community equity index, to make sure that we're doing this in as intentional a way as possible. And then we have an innovation fund doubling down on our global strength in innovative industries, including biohealth, and a founders equity fund. Those two funds are expected to launch imminently. We've been pushing the executive branch to get those out the door as quickly as possible, because we need to grow our economy. We need to make sure that we're diversifying our economy, and we need to be moving forward with the type of growth that we need to sustain quality of life, to create jobs, to incentivize investments, and to make sure that we're sending the signal loud and clear to the private sector, not just here in our community, but throughout the country and around the world. If you are willing to invest in Montgomery County wants to invest in you. And we need to be intentional, we need to be serious, and we cannot afford to rest on our laurels, because the entire future of the county, our ability to maintain our level of services and our quality of life, rely on an economy that can support it.
That was an expansive answer, and thank you. But if I could just ask you, just as a brief follow-up, you've got a 21.9% office vacancy rate in your county right now, and you're not alone in this. DC has struggled with vacant office buildings. Obviously, the news from Amazon, we still do not know how far the build out is going to go on the structures over there. You just opened the Make Office Vacancy Extinct grant program. Do you need to accelerate these issues, because you are going to be in competition with jurisdictions surrounding you that have the exact same situation you have?
Well, office vacancy is a major issue, as you mentioned. We're about average in that. If you look at the data, we're better off than some. We're about similar to most. We're worse off than others, but we're somewhere towards the average. We don't want to be average. We want to be better, and we're striving to do that. There are a number of aspects to office vacancy, as you mentioned. We recently expanded the MOVE program, the Make Office Vacancy Extinct, which is an incentive program to address office vacancy by providing incentives for those who fill vacant offices. We have a number of other efforts as well related to that. The Economic Development Committee, led by Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez, are looking at some additional incentives for office conversion. And I am working on the zoning side, along with the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, which oversees the zoning piece of it, because some of the conversion of office is related to zoning. Some of it is related to financing, which incentives can play a role in. And we have work to do in that regard. Some of it is that the dynamic of the economy has changed, and we need to make sure that we're meeting the changing needs of the economy. And the reality is, we may not need the number of suburban offices that we traditionally used to need. There are changes to the workforce in terms of virtual work, in terms of work from home, that we need to adjust and adapt to. So some of this is about bringing in businesses and jobs and growing a vibrant economy, which we need to be more intentional about, which I talked about earlier. Some of it is about making sure that the actual physical plant of office is meeting the needs of the businesses and the employers that we have in the county. And that's something that we're working on, we're focused on, and we're going to make sure that we're competitive in.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Reporters, if you have any other questions, you can note that in the chat or raise your hand. I don't see any questions right now. I'll give a few moments. Reporters, any last minute questions? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, back to you, Council President.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Look forward to hearing from you soon, and hopefully we'll see you this afternoon and tomorrow at our council session. Take care.